Imagine living through, well, basically everything. Two world wars, the invention of television, the whole digital age starting up, all in one lifetime. Or you think about the opposite end. Picture navigating the world when you're just 2 feet tall. These aren't just weird facts, they're real lives. Lives lived right at the very edges of what we think is possible for a human being. Okay, so let's really unpack this today. We're doing a deep dive into some pretty incredible stories, all about human physical extremes. We've pulled together quite a range of sources: YouTube transcripts, biographical details, record books, all looking at people who really truly defied the average. And these aren't just, numbers in a book. They're actual people with vibrant lives.
Absolutely. And what's so fascinating, I think, is how these individuals, these unique people, didn't just push biological boundaries. Their lives actually cross paths with huge historical moments. So they give us these really unique perspectives on living an extraordinary life right at the very edge. We'll be looking at the shortest woman ever recorded, the tallest woman, and the oldest verified person. And we'll try to connect their stories, see what threads link them.
Yeah, so our mission today really is to pull out the key takeaways.
Mm.
What can we actually learn from these incredibly different lives? Things about resilience, maybe,
Hmm.
about health, destiny, and just the sheer, wow factor of human potential when it's pushed to the limit. How do they cope? How do they navigate a world that, let's face it, wasn't designed for them?
Exactly. And we want to look past the headline sensationalism. We need to get into the factors that shape their lives. Genetics, sure, but also their environment, lifestyle choices. Because their stories, I think, can give all of us these aha moments, real insights, no matter, where we sit on the human spectrum. It's about understanding that complex mix, biology, environment, and just willpower.
Right. We tend to focus so much on the average, the typical, but maybe the most interesting lessons are out there at the extremes. So our sources highlight people holding Guinness World Records for height, but also a contemporary figure who's living a very public life being exceptionally tall right now.
Hmm.
It's really compelling to look at how different human bodies can be and what that actually means for the person living in that body.
And that brings up a really crucial question, doesn't it? What are the day-to-day challenges, the unique experiences? I mean, just imagine living life at those physical dimensions. How do you navigate a world where doors, cars, clothes, none of it is built for you? And then there's the social side. How does society react? How do they react to being looked at potentially all the time? How do they adapt?
Okay, let's start by going back a bit. Late 19th century. We need to talk about Pauline Musters. She's in the Guinness World Records as the shortest woman ever recorded. Born in the Netherlands, 1876. Her life was incredibly brief, but definitely significant. She stood just 24 inches tall. That's exactly 2 feet. It's just hard to even picture, really.
It really is. And that stature immediately implies a life of just constant, ongoing adaptation. Pauline's condition falls under what's generally called primordial dwarfism. It's a group of rare genetic conditions where body size is significantly smaller right from the beginning, from conception. Now, think about that in the late 1800s. Reaching a doorknob, sitting on a chair, moving through a crowd. Every single thing would be a major hurdle. Her life really throws a spotlight on how much our built world just assumes an average human size. It's a stark reminder of those inherent design biases.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's just incredible to me is that despite all that, Pauline Musters was a dancer, a Dutch dancer. Can you imagine the sheer grit, the determination, the grace it must have taken to pursue that? At that size, in that era, it says so much about her spirit, doesn't it? Not just her physical ability, but her inner strength, her will to express herself.
Hmm. Her choice of profession, being a dancer, is really quite profound, I think. It suggests, like you said, incredible determination, but also a spirit that didn't just want to exist, but wanted to engage with life through movement. You have to remember, at that time, people with significant physical differences were often, well, hidden away or put in sideshows. Her performing publicly as a dancer, that gave her a unique kind of agency, a way to connect with the world on her own terms. It wasn't just surviving, it was performing, captivating people.
Right. And this next part, it adds such a poignant layer. Despite this vibrant life, Pauline Musters died tragically young, at age 19. Now, our sources have a slight difference. One says 19, others says 17. But both agree on the cause.
Hmm.
Pneumonia. Whichever age it was, 17 or 19, it's undeniably a life cut way too short. It makes you think, doesn't it? Someone so incredibly unique, so singular, facing such a common, everyday, devastating end.
It really does. That detail is incredibly powerful. Her physical stature made her globally exceptional, a true rarity. But her vulnerability to something like pneumonia, it tragically highlights the universal fragility of life. It just hits home, doesn't it? It underlines that even outliers, people living at the very extremes, are still subject to the same biological realities, the same vulnerabilities we all face. Her unique physique didn't make her immune to the common threats of her time. It's a really stark reminder that being physically extreme doesn't mean you're invincible.
Okay, so from Pauline's remarkable shortness, let's pivot completely, to the other end of the scale, let's talk about Zheng Jinlian, known as the tallest woman ever recorded, born in Hunan, China in 1964. And she stood an absolutely staggering 8 feet 2 inches tall. What makes it even more striking is her family context. She was the first of 8 kids, but her siblings, they were average height.
8 feet 2 inches. It's just an extraordinary height. It pushes the known limits of human growth almost beyond imagination. It's really a testament to the sheer range of biological possibility within our species, even if these extremes are incredibly, incredibly rare.
And apparently, right from a very young age, it was obvious something was different. She started growing abnormally fast. By the time she was only 16, she was already over 2 meters tall.
Yeah.
Can you even begin to imagine the attention that would bring, especially in, say, mid-20th century China?
Yeah.
What must that have been like, living as a sort of sensation from when you're just a kid every time you step outside?
It's incredibly hard to fully grasp, I think. She quickly became this huge sensation locally and nationally in China. She was one of the most famous tall people of her time. And that level of public visibility, it must have come with a unique and profound set of challenges. Social challenges, psychological ones, on top of the obvious physical ones. Every move, every time she was in public, drawing stares, comments, her life was effectively lived out in the open, whether she wanted it or not. That constant scrutiny must have been a huge weight.
Yeah, relentless. And the family context just adds another layer, doesn't it? Her parents were average height. Dad was about 5'4.5", Mom about 5'1.5", and her brother, also typical height, around 5'2.5". So clearly this wasn't just a case of inheriting tall genes from tall parents. Something else was going on.
Right. And if we connect that to what we know about human growth, her family being average height strongly suggests this wasn't typical genetic inheritance. It was almost certainly caused by a unique genetic mutation, or more likely, an underlying medical condition. Probably pituitary gigantism. That's where the pituitary gland goes into overdrive, producing way too much growth hormone during childhood or adolescence. It leads to this incredibly rapid, extreme growth. But this condition, while rare, puts enormous physiological stress on the body. You see potential skeletal issues, joint problems, often an enlarged heart, major metabolic imbalances. These internal strains frequently lead to serious complications like the diabetes mentioned in one source about her. And sadly, these complications often contribute to a shorter lifespan.
Wow. So despite all that, the immense physical strain, the constant public attention, our sources all seem to agree she had this really optimistic, cheerful personality. That's quite something, isn't it, to carry that kind of burden, physical and social, and still maintain a positive outlook?
It really is fascinating, that contrast between the severe physical challenges she must have faced daily and this reported cheerfulness. It speaks volumes about the human spirit's capacity for resilience, for finding joy somehow, even when facing profound, lifelong adversity. It's a powerful reminder that our inner state, our emotional well-being, isn't always dictated by our physical form or our external circumstances. Her optimism is really a testament to inner strength.
And echoing Pauline Muster's story in a way, we see another incredibly unique life ending far too soon. Zheng Jinlian died when she was just 17 years old, February 13th, 1982. Cause of death listed as medical complications, and one source specifically mentioned diabetes, as you noted. It really makes you stop and think about the sheer physiological load these extreme physical traits carry. Not just the day-to-day navigation, but the strain on the body's core systems, struggling to cope with such a departure from the norm.
You're absolutely right. Those medical complications are, as we discussed, very commonly linked with conditions like gigantism. The body's systems, cardiovascular, endocrine, skeletal, they can really struggle to keep up with or adequately support such rapid and extensive growth. It just underscores the immense physiological strain involved. Her life, much like Pauline Muster's, really emphasizes that while these extremes are extraordinary, they often come with inherent vulnerabilities, predispositions to serious health issues that, tragically, shorten their time.
Okay, let's jump forward now to a more contemporary example of extreme height that people might be more familiar with. Our sources bring up Lindsay K. Hayward. Now, she doesn't hold the absolute Guinness record for tallest woman, but she is recognized as the world's tallest actress. She stands 6 feet 8 inches tall. And she also had a stint in the WWE, the wrestling world.
Right. Lindsay K. Hayward gives us a really relevant modern-day example. Her story shows how extreme height, even if not record-shattering on a global scale, can still translate into unique, even advantageous career paths and significant public visibility, especially in entertainment and sports. It's quite a fascinating shift from the circumstances of Pauline and Zheng living in earlier times.
It really is interesting to see how these physical traits shape lives differently across different eras, isn't it? For Pauline Musters in the 19th century or Zheng Jinlian in the mid-20th, their height often made them objects of curiosity, maybe medical study, sometimes, sadly, part of exhibitions. But for Lindsay K. Hayward today, her height seems often framed as a distinct asset in her profession, almost like a superpower in acting or wrestling.
hmm That comparison really brings up an important point, I think. When you look at Pauline and Zheng Jinlian, both lived these incredibly unique lives, but they ended tragically young. It highlights those severe health challenges often linked to extreme physical development, particularly in their historical context with the medical knowledge of the time. Lindsay Hayward, though, seems to be thriving in a very public career. It offers a kind of contrasting narrative how these traits can sometimes be managed, even leveraged as strengths in certain fields today. It really makes you consider the evolving relationship between biology, societal views, medical progress, and cultural opportunities.
It really does. It makes you reflect on that deep connection between biology and environment. How different the world must have felt to each of them. Pauline Musters navigating a 19th century world scaled for larger people where she was such an extreme outlier. Zheng Jinlian growing up as this national sensation in China, constantly observed. And then Lindsay K. Hayward carving out a successful niche in modern entertainment where her stature is actually celebrated in many ways. Beyond the obvious height difference, what else stands out to you? Any common threads or key differences in how they navigated their worlds?
Well, the most profound commonality, I think, despite the huge differences in time and culture, is the absolute necessity of adaptation, constant adaptation. All three had to continuously adjust to a world simply not built for their physical size, whether that's literal things like buildings and chairs, or social expectations, or even the medical understanding available to them. The fundamental difference, though, really lies in that change in context, the opportunities, the medical care, the societal views. For Pauline and Zheng Jinlian, as we discussed, their extreme physiques were intrinsically linked to those profound health issues that cut their lives short. Their stories powerfully highlight the inherent biological strains. Lindsay, while definitely exceptionally tall, seems to fall within a range that, while still unusual, perhaps allows for a more physiologically robust existence. And crucially, her height has been embraced and leveraged by certain sectors of society in a way that likely wasn't possible for the earlier examples. That speaks volumes, partly about medical advancements that can help manage potential health risks, but also, significantly, about shifting societal attitudes towards physical difference and the wider range of professional paths now open.
Okay, so from lives cut tragically short at these physical extremes, we're now going to pivot again. This time, to someone who stretched the other boundary of human existence lifespan beyond what most people thought was even remotely possible. Our sources dive really deep into the life of Jeanne Calment, a French woman who lived for an absolutely astounding 122 years and 164 days. It's a feat of longevity so remarkable it genuinely stands alone in verified human history. And it makes you ask, how? How on earth was that even possible?
Indeed, it's the question everyone asks. People have pondered the secrets to extreme longevity for ages, especially now when extending healthy lifespan is such a major goal. Jeanne Calment, she's what we call a supercentenarian. That means someone who lived to 110 or more. And she's the ultimate validated case. She offers this unparalleled case study, not just because she lived so incredibly long, but crucially because we have so much detailed, verified information about her life, her habits, her environment. This is where knowledge gets really valuable, right? When you can understand it and potentially apply it. Her story offers tangible insights, not just theories about aging.
So let's get into the basics about Jeanne Calment, born February 21st, 1875 in Arles, France. And remarkably, she lived her entire, very long life in that same city. She passed away on August 4th, 1997. Her age, 122 years, 164 days, makes her the oldest person whose age has ever been officially rigorously verified. She's in the Guinness World Records, obviously. But most importantly, her birth certificate, census records, all the supporting documents were meticulously authenticated. That makes her genuinely unique in the study of extreme old age.
That verification part you mentioned, it's absolutely critical here. In this field, claims of extreme old age, there's a lot of skepticism. And frankly, there should be, because many claims just lack solid proof. But with Jeanne Calment, the sheer thoroughness of the verification process is what sets her miles apart from any other purported supercentenarian.
And speaking of verification, there was that bit of controversy, wasn't there? Some speculation around her identity. Our sources mentioned some researchers floated a theory that maybe her daughter, Yvonne, had assumed her identity after Yvonne died back in 1934. How seriously is that taken now? And what makes her verification so strong that most experts are confident it was really her?
That's an excellent point to dig into because, in today's world of information overload, critical thinking is key, especially with such extraordinary claims. Skepticism about a 122-year lifespan is natural, even healthy. But that specific theory, the identity swap with her daughter Yvonne, it's been exhaustively investigated, really thoroughly debunked by most experts. The verification of Jeanne Kellerman's age involved cross-referencing tons of official documents, census records, notary deeds, church records, even family financial records over decades. Plus, they did independent interviews with numerous people who knew her personally over many, many years, gerontologists, demographers. The overwhelming consensus is that her age was accurately recorded, and the identity swap theory just doesn't hold water against the mountain of authenticated evidence. She's considered one of the most meticulously documented supercentenarians ever, precisely because of these intense efforts to confirm everything beyond reasonable doubt. It really underscores why rigorous methodology and factual grounding are so vital in studying longevity. We have to go way beyond just intriguing stories.
That's really helpful context on the verification. Thanks. Now let's talk about her life through history. Just try to imagine living through all of this. Born 1875, died 1997, she personally witnessed this incredible sweep of global events. She was alive when the Eiffel Tower was built in 1889, this symbol of modernity. She was there for the Wright brothers' first flight in 1903, the dawn of aviation. She lived through all of World War I, the massive economic crash of the Great Depression, the devastation of World War II. It's just mind-boggling. And it wasn't just the big political events. Think about the technological shifts she saw and adapted to. She saw cars replace horses, airplanes shrink the world, electricity and indoor plumbing become commonplace things we take completely for granted. And then, in her later years, the rise of computers, the very beginnings of the internet. She saw more fundamental change in how humans live than almost anyone else in history. Her memory was like a living archive.
It's absolutely fascinating, isn't it? Her individual life, her single timeline, becomes this unique, tangible lens for viewing an entire century of human progress, conflict, and innovation. It's not just abstract history from a book. It was her lived reality. It gives us this direct personal connection to the whole sweep of modern history. And it powerfully highlights how incredibly adaptable humans can be, not just as individuals adapting day to day, but society adapting to these massive, rapid shifts. Her ability to just absorb all that change without being overwhelmed is, in itself, pretty remarkable. It speaks to her resilience.
And this is where her story gets really personal and quite moving, I think. She married her cousin, Fernand, back in 1896. He died in 1942. They had one daughter, Yvonne, who sadly died quite young at 36. So she didn't just outlive her husband. She outlived her daughter and eventually her grandson, too. To outlive your entire direct family line, generation after generation. That paints a picture of incredible resilience, yes, but also potentially profound loneliness. It's a level of loss very few people ever have to face.
Exactly. That amount of cumulative loss is almost impossible for most of us to really comprehend. It certainly points to a deep wellspring of psychological and emotional strength needed to just keep going, to continue living with vitality after experiencing such profound bereavements one after another. This part of her life is a powerful reminder that longevity isn't just about the physical body enduring. It's also about the mental and emotional fortitude required to navigate a life that stretches far, far beyond almost everyone else's. It suggests a remarkable inner peace, perhaps, or an ability to process grief that allowed her to keep moving forward.
And what's maybe even more remarkable and definitely inspiring is how active and independent she remained for so long. Our sources point out she was still riding a bicycle at 100 years old. 100. She lived on her own independently in her apartment until she was 110. And it wasn't just physical stuff. She famously enjoyed painting. She played the piano. Right up until very late in her life, she stayed engaged, creative. Naturally, she became this global media sensation around 1995 when she hit 120. Everyone wanted to know about this woman with such incredible vitality.
This specific detail really throws down a challenge to our usual assumptions about what aging has to look like. Her sustained activity, her profound independence, stretching way into her supercentenarian years. It strongly suggests a powerful link between an active lifestyle and a high quality of life, not just the quantity of years. It powerfully shows that extreme old age doesn't automatically mean total decline, dependence, or losing your purpose. And her hobbies, the painting, the piano, they clearly highlight how important ongoing mental stimulation and creative outlets are for maintaining cognitive function and just overall well-being. It's really a picture of holistic health.
Incredible. So, okay, let's get into it. What were the secrets? What were the fundamental principles behind this extraordinary life? Our sources break down several contributing factors, often called her secrets to longevity. Let's go through them because there seems to be a lot here we can all learn from, not just for hitting 122, but just for better health overall.
Absolutely. And while we have to acknowledge genetics likely played a big, maybe foundational role, her reported lifestyle choices offer genuinely actionable insights, things that can improve health and well-being for pretty much anyone. This is where the knowledge becomes really useful, right? Not just data, but things we can understand and potentially apply in our own lives. Her secrets provide a remarkably practical guide to living well, regardless of your genetic hand.
Right. Her amazing vitality wasn't just luck. It clearly came from a whole approach to daily living. First up, movement. Sources emphasize she wasn't just vaguely active, she actively exercised, built a really strong physical base over her lifetime. Think about it, born 1875. For her, being active meant walking everywhere, climbing stairs constantly in her home, and famously cycling until she was 100. This wasn't about hitting the gym. It was about weaving consistent, functional movement into the fabric of her daily life. What does that tell us? Not just that activity is good, but maybe about adapting that activity over a whole century.
Precisely. That idea of active living as opposed to just structured exercise is really insightful. It speaks to that continuous, maybe lower intensity movement throughout the day, which builds up a kind of sustained physiological reserve. It helps the body handle age-related challenges better. And back in her day, that kind of consistent functional movement probably built unique strengths in muscles, bones, cardiovascular system that maybe our more sedentary and modern lives don't foster in the same way. It really suggests that long-term consistency and just seamlessly integrating movement into your daily rhythm might be even more crucial for longevity than, say, intense but sporadic workouts. It built a resilience tested over 122 years.
Okay, and complementing that was her approach to food. Sources call it a balanced diet.
Yeah.
Kelman apparently ate lots of fruits, vegetables, fish. She actively avoided processed foods and too much meat, drank plenty of water, and famously enjoyed a glass of red wine with her meals. Oh, and she loved chocolate. Reportedly ate like over 2 pounds a week later in life. So definitely not about strict denial, but more a pattern of sensible eating, maybe with room for enjoyment.
That balanced diet approach, focusing on whole, unprocessed foods, pops up again and again in longevity research. Fruits, vegetables, fish, they provide those essential micronutrients, healthy fats. That's the foundation. The red wine in moderation with meals, that's classic Mediterranean diet stuff, which is strongly linked to health and long life. And the chocolate. It seems counterintuitive, but it often highlights that maybe a really long life doesn't require total asceticism. Perhaps enjoyment, a bit of flexibility within a generally healthy pattern is just as important. Maybe it reduces stress, helps you stick with the good habits over decades. It's about nourishment and pleasure, not just rigid rules.
And then there was routine and rest, a big part of her life. She was described as a creature of habit, believed that having a consistent daily schedule helped keep her physically and mentally healthy. Woke up early, same time each morning, went to bed same time each night, ate meals at regular times, and interestingly, took an afternoon nap every single day.
That consistency, that routine, provides invaluable stability for the body's internal clocks, our circadian rhythms. These rhythms regulate everything: sleep-wake cycles, hormone release, metabolism. Having a predictable routine optimizes all of that. And the afternoon nap is fascinating, often overlooked. It suggests she had this deep, maybe intuitive understanding of her body's need for regular rest and recovery periods throughout the day, not just at night. This very structured approach likely minimized physiological stress over the long haul. It probably optimized her body's repair cycles for decades and decades.
Beyond the physical, her mental approach seems just as important. Calment believes staying mentally active was absolutely crucial. She regularly played cards, read books, and made a real effort to keep up with current events, staying engaged with the world. She strongly felt this helped maintain her cognitive sharpness, prevented memory loss way into her advanced years.
Oh, absolutely critical. We hear this all the time in gerontology now. The brain is like a muscle. It needs regular stimulation. Activities like cards, they demand problem solving, strategy, memory. Reading requires comprehension, focus. And keeping up with current events shows she avoided just tuning out. She stayed connected to the bigger picture, maintained a sense of relevance. It really points to a holistic view of health, mind, and body working together.
And maybe a more surprising one, but incredibly powerful. Her emotional resilience, that ability to don't sweat the small stuff. Kelman apparently had this remarkably positive outlook.
Hmm.
She consciously chose to focus on what mattered, didn't waste energy worrying about trivial things or stuff she couldn't control. She actively decided to enjoy each day. And she was known for her sharp wit, her sense of humor, finding joy in simple things, even when she was well over 100.
This really highlights that powerful, maybe underestimated link between how we feel mentally and how we are physically. Chronic stress, from constantly worrying about little things or things beyond our control, it has real negative physical effects. Inflammation, faster cellular aging. Her amazing ability to just let go of minor frustrations, to actively cultivate optimism and joy, that likely contributed hugely to her longevity by reducing that cumulative stress load on her body over a century. It points to emotional regulation and inner peace as genuine longevity factors.
And closely related to that, perhaps feeding into it, was her focus on social connection. Kalman kept really close ties with her family throughout her life. She firmly believed staying connected to loved ones was vital for good health. She genuinely enjoyed spending time with her kids, grandkids, even great-grandkids, built those intergenerational bonds, and she had a close circle of friends she regularly socialized with, too.
Social connection comes up time and time again in public health and longevity studies. It's one of the most powerful predictors of overall health and lifespan. Loneliness, social isolation. They're major risk factors for all sorts of problems, from heart disease to dementia. Her strong, lasting social network would have provided constant emotional support, a deep sense of purpose, and lots of opportunities for mental and emotional engagement. All those things demonstrably contribute to a longer, healthier, more fulfilling life. It just reinforces that we're fundamentally social creatures. We thrive in community.
Okay, and finally, something she had less control over, but which probably provided a strong starting point.
Genetics. Our sources do acknowledge that many experts think Jean Kelman's genes played a really significant, maybe even pivotal role. Her parents, her siblings, even her children, they all lived relatively long lives. It suggests a kind of family tendency towards longevity, a longevity gene pool, maybe. Right. While all those lifestyle factors we just discussed are incredibly powerful and largely within our control, it's also true that genetics can give you a significant biological advantage. Her family history strongly suggests she likely inherited a pretty robust genetic blueprint, one that maybe offered some inherent protection against common age-related diseases, allowed her body systems to run efficiently for longer. It seems like she had this unique combination, exceptionally good genes plus an exceptionally consistent, healthy, and engaged lifestyle. That created the perfect storm, if you will, for record-breaking longevity. It highlights that while we can all optimize our health through choices, some individuals might just be born with a greater inherent capacity for a very long life.
And her overall health profile. Sources say she really had a remarkably healthy life, especially given how long it was. Born into a farming family, that active rural start probably helped build a strong foundation. Even when she was in her 120s, doctors visited regularly, monitored her closely. They consistently noted she had a good appetite, slept well. She apparently had no major health problems besides the sort of expected arthritis and some vision impairment very late in life, things that are common even decades earlier for most people.
Yeah, if we connect that to the bigger picture of healthy aging, her generally good health, despite those minor, predictable age-related issues, is just a profound testament to the cumulative power of those healthy habits stacked up over 122 years. It strongly suggests that while the potential for extreme longevity might start with lucky genes, that potential is nurtured, maintained, and really optimized by consistent, healthy choices made throughout your entire life. Her story isn't just about survival, it's about thriving, maintaining quality of life engagement well into ages previously thought impossible.
Okay, so after diving deep into Pauline Musters, Zeng Jillian, and Jane Callan, what are the big takeaways? What larger patterns or really profound insights come out of looking at these extraordinary lives together? It's not just about the records, right? It's about what their unique paths teach us about being human.
Right. Looking closely at these outliers really helps us grasp the full, astonishing range of human potential. Not just physically, but in terms of resilience, adaptability, the sheer will to live. And it shines a light on that complex dance between our genes, our environment, our society, and our personal choices. It's not just about the sensationalism of breaking records, it's about getting a deeper handle on the human condition, revealed in its most extreme forms. And from their stories, I think several powerful interconnected themes really stand out. First, there's the stark reality of the fragility of life, no matter how unique you are. Both Pauline Musters and Zeng Jinlian, despite physical traits that made them globally unique, sadly succumbed to common illnesses or complications very young. It's a powerful reminder that even at the furthest edges of possibility, life is still inherently vulnerable, sometimes tragically unpredictable. Their unique conditions didn't shield them from basic human mortality. It's a humbling perspective that grounds the extraordinary in shared reality.
Yeah, that really hits home.
Secondly, we see so clearly the profound cumulative impact of consistent, disciplined lifestyle choices. Jean Calment is the ultimate example here. Her story provides this compelling, well-documented case for the power of regular activity, a balanced diet, staying mentally sharp, and having strong social ties. What's key is that her habits weren't extreme or crazy, they were consistent, achievable, and sustainable over the very long term. It shows that long-term health and lifespan often come down to those small, deliberate daily actions, building up resilience decade after decade.
Small things adding up over time.
Makes sense. And finally, maybe the most inspiring thing is the incredible capacity of the human spirit to adapt, persevere, and find joy, even when facing huge challenges. Zhang Jinlian, despite her medical issues and the constant scrutiny, was known for being cheerful. Jeanne Calment, facing unimaginable loss by outliving everyone, kept her humor, kept painting, playing piano, stayed engaged with life right into her 120s. These stories powerfully highlight that inner resilience, that emotional strength that goes beyond just the physical. It reminds us that attitude, perspective, inner fortitude, they play a massive role in the quality of our lives, no matter how long they last or what our physical form is.
Right. And John Calment's story, it feels less like a historical curiosity and more like a lesson plan almost. Her habits, the principles she lived by, they seem genuinely achievable for anyone, don't they? It's not about being French or winning the genetic lottery necessarily. It's about the choices she consistently made.
Absolutely. While her genes were likely a huge factor, her consistent habits offer this incredibly clear, actionable roadmap for better health that's pretty much accessible to everyone. Making small, steady changes, moving more in our daily lives, eating a bit better, prioritizing sleep, staying mentally curious, nurturing our relationships, we can all work towards a longer, more fulfilling, healthier life, whatever our starting point. These aren't obscure secrets from 100 years ago. They're fundamental principles of well-being backed up by tons of modern science.
Yeah, it's really about taking a leaf out of her book, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Prioritizing our health now, not just hoping for some miracle down the road. Understanding that longevity isn't just about counting years, but about the richness and vitality packed into those years.
Precisely. Her whole life drives home that message. Living long and living well are often deeply connected. And proactive, consistent choices play a much bigger role than maybe we realize in shaping our health path.
So today, we've really taken a deep dive into lives lived right at the extremes. From the incredible shortness of Pauline Musters, barely 2 feet tall, to the towering presence of Zheng Jinlian at over 8 feet, and Lindsay K. Hayward, a modern example at 6'8". And then, the ultimate extreme of lifespan, Jeanne Calment, who saw more than a century of history unfold personally.
Mm-hmm. And we've seen that while genetics definitely play a big foundational role in setting up these unique attributes, the stories themselves, especially Jeanne Calment's, powerfully underscore how much lifestyle, mental resilience, and social connection impact both the quality and the duration of a life. There's always more to learn from these unique journeys, but those threads, positive habits, adaptability, they really stand out as powerful forces.
So you've heard about these incredible human extremes. These lives live so far from the average. As you think about their stories, maybe ask yourself this. What's one small, truly actionable change you could make in your own daily routine, inspired by someone like Jeanne Calment? Something that might help you not just live longer, but live more fully. Maybe it really is prioritizing that afternoon rest, or picking up a challenging book instead of scrolling, something concrete.
And chew on this thought. If a woman born way back in 1875 could ride a bicycle at 100, keep her sharp wit, stay mentally engaged into her 120s, what untapped potential do we all have? Potential to embrace healthier living, cultivate a positive outlook, regardless of our own specific genetic hand. The power we have to influence our own well-being, the vitality of our own lives, it's probably far, far greater than most of us truly realize.